Hello and welcome here to Talking SCB, and welcome back to the channel for yet another video. And here today we're going to be taking a look at 7 different players that Barcelona should be or have been taking a look at in terms of the centre-back role, which desperately needs filling this summer. It's a position that I feel we should have strengthened many years ago, and over the course of the last few seasons we've been linked time and time again with top quality centre-backs, but we haven't been able to sign one. And I do get the feeling that this summer we may finally get our hands on a world-class centre-back and a perfect partner for Gerard Piqué. So let's have a look at the 7 players, and let's kick right off with Valencia's Mustafi. Now what I've done is I've ordered these 7 players in terms of the best stats to the worst stats. The first player has the best stats, and we're going to be coming to the 7th player later on in the video who has the worst stats. The thing I'll say about stats is they're very good to use in addition to an opinion or a thought or an idea, but I would not judge a game or a player solely on stats alone. They're not the be-all end-all. That does not tell the whole story. I've simply used them here to, in addition to my opinion, and also as a guideline to see how they've made progress this season. So let's start with Mustafi, and I've given them all a rating, as you can see in the top left corner, out of 10. I've given Mustafi a 9 out of 10 for the player he is, and the reasoning for that is I believe he is the perfect man we should sign this summer, and that's going to surprise some people because, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Marquinhos, about Laporte. We're going to be coming on to those 2 later, young players, but this man has slipped under the radar. People are talking about young centre-backs and people who can be our centre-back for the next 10 years. This guy could be our next centre-back for the next 10 years. He's 24 years old. He's a World Cup winner. He's made many appearances over the last 2 seasons for Valencia. He's been an absolute mainstay in that defence. He played for Sampdoria in Serie A. He had a bit of time in the Premier League with Everton, and he's travelled around and he's gained experience with the Germany national team as well, of course, and I just feel he's all round the perfect player for us. He really is, and that was absolutely demonstrated when he visited the Camp Nou just a week or so ago. He was absolutely phenomenal in the game that Valencia managed to hold us and beat us in the game at the Camp Nou. He was just monumental, because that's a Valencia team at the moment that's struggling for confidence, certainly struggling for leaders, and certainly struggling for a good partnership at centre-back, because he had to play next to Abdenur, he has had to play next to a few other players at the Valencia heart of defence, and Mustafi has been stunning. He really has been outstanding in a poor Valencia side, and last summer, when Manchester City took Otamendi to the Premier League for big money, this is the man they should have taken. Otamendi was phenomenal last season, but Mustafi is consistent, he's very underrated, and he's a top quality performer, and he's played again in the Champions League this season, in the Europa League, and his stats in the Champions League, Europa League are actually even better than his La Liga stats. He's made 28 La Liga appearances this season, making 2.8 tackles per game, an absolutely whopping 4.4 interceptions per game, and 0.7 blocks. Now you'll see when we come on to the other players that those tackles per game, and in particular the interceptions per game, are colossal. He is a man at the heart of that defence who takes control. He's 6 foot tall, so he's not massive, he's not a giant, but he's athletic. He's tall, he's got the height, he's got the strength, but he's also got the pace. He's got that agility about him, that he's a physical player, but he can also keep up with his attacker, and that's so important. And I just feel, in terms of, I think we need a defender who's good with the ball, but he's also a defender. We don't want to bring someone in who's a complete ball-playing defender, because we've got that in Gerard Piqué. You don't necessarily need 2 of those in your team, the be-all, end-all ball-playing centre-back. What you need is a balance. We need a ball-playing centre-back and somebody who can really defend, put their heart on the line. Something like Mascherano does need to be able to read the game, but of course somebody a bit younger, somebody a bit more agile, and somebody who's a bit stronger as well. He's 6 foot tall, he's got the strength, he's got the leadership, which I love, and I just think he's a fantastic all-round defender, whether it be in the air, on the floor. He's proven himself in La Liga, he's proven himself in Europe, and he's proven himself on the international stage, and I also believe that he wouldn't actually be that difficult to acquire. If you put the money there in front of Valencia, their key players often leave the club. Yes, they've got a new owner now in Peter Lim, very rich, but at the same time, that didn't stop them losing Otamendi last summer. If the will is there for Mustafi to leave, and I certainly believe that the interest came in from Barça, he would certainly be interested. We could get him for, I think, about 30-35 million, which is cheaper than you're talking for Laporte, and cheaper than you're talking for Marquinhos. So That's a very, very interesting player, and for me, he's the ideal replacement. But you've also got number 2, Aymeric Laporte. I've given him 8 out of 10, and there's a few reasons for this. He's second in terms of the best stats. He's made 26 league appearances this season. He's one of the youngest players on the list at 21 years old, so still a lot of time to develop, a lot of time to grow as a player. He's made 1.9 tackles per game, 2.7 interceptions, and 0.6 blocks. Now, you can see what I mean about Mustafi's interceptions, nearly double what Laporte has done, and he's second on the list, so imagine what he's done compared to the other two. But, you know, I think Laporte is a very, very good player. He's played at Athletic, he's been loyal there, he's come through the system, and he's really, really done well in La Liga, but I still think with him there's more to come. I still think he can develop as a player, and I still think there's mistakes in his game which need ironing out. I think he's decent with the ball, but I think at the same time, when you put him under a certain number of pressure, he is going to buckle a little bit. He hasn't got the same amount of experience as, say, Marquinhos has, or has Mustafi. On the international stage, he's not appeared that often for France. He's not really played a lot of games in Europe. So in terms of that part of his game, it still needs developing. He still needs experience. And about 40-odd million for him would be an awful lot of money. We're talking about possibly 50 million. Manchester City are interested as well. So of course that's going to drive the price up. He's got a release clause in his contract. But of course in Spain, when you pay the release clause, that's not the be-all end-all of it, because there's often VAT and taxes and everything on the top of that as well. So it could be a complicated deal. It's not always difficult to deal with Athletic as well, because they don't really like to sell their players, and they'll only do so if you meet their release clause, because of course they can't just go out and sign someone else with their transfer policy they have, only playing with Basque players. But I think Laporte is a great player. He's got so much potential. He's established in La Liga. I think he's good. He's a good talent. He's about 6'2", so he's got the height there, he's got the physical ability, and he's decent with the ball. But I just feel in terms of Mustafi and Marquinhos, they've got more experience. I think they've proven themselves a bit more than Laporte has, and I just think their game is a little more polished than Laporte's is for the price that you'd have to pay. Number 3 on the list, and the third best player in terms of stats, and somebody who hasn't been linked with us that often, but I've seen a few links in the press, and that's Matteo Musacchio of Villarreal. Now, Villarreal have had an absolutely fantastic season in La Liga. Looks like they're going to be playing Champions League football next season, and a big part of that is Musacchio. He's only made 12 league appearances this season, and the reasoning for that is he did recover from a very, very serious injury. He's only just come back from that just at the start of the year. But it's in terms of when he has been back, he's been excellent. He's been a really good player at the heart of Villarreal's defence. Again, he's at the tender age of 25, so certainly quite a young player in terms of defensive years. He could still play until he's 33, 34. We know that in a defender. He's made 1.3 tackles per game, quite a lot of interceptions in 3 per game, and 0.6 blocks. And I think he's got a quality. I've given him a 7 out of 10 because I think he's a decent player. I think he wouldn't be as expensive as Mustafi, Laporte, Marquinhos. He wouldn't be as expensive as any of those, so he'd be a cheaper option for us. He's made a few appearances for the Argentine national team, so again he's got experience there. He's been playing in La Liga for a number of years now, so he does have experience, he does have quality, he's decent with the ball. Villarreal play quite a high line, so he's used to that in that respect. But in terms of Musacchio, he doesn't have the sort of world-class ability. He doesn't have the wow factor for me. I think there's a lot of better players out there than him, but at the same time, for the price that you have to pay, he would be a very, very good addition. But I just feel that the most of our budget should be going on a centre-back, and if that's the case, we should be paying the big bucks for somebody who's in the world-class category, and sadly that does rule out Musacchio, who's a good option, but not quite the option for me. The next player for me, I've given him a 9 out of 10 as well, and he would be my second favourite. And the only reason I wouldn't give him a 10 is, number one, because I don't really think we can get him. Deep down, I think Atletico Madrid are going to hold on to Jimenez. But number two, I'm not quite sure how he'd adjust to playing in our style of play. There's quite a drastic difference, as we've seen from Arda Turan being here to Atletico Madrid and our style of play. They defend a lot deeper. They do a lot of different things to us in terms of ball playing, and also the way in which they approach the game in terms of dropping off and pushing up. It's different there. But in terms of everything else, Jimenez ticks every box. For me, he's the best young centre-back in world football right now. He is an astounding young talent. Diego Simeone has moulded him around the image of the player that he would love at centre-back. He's learnt from Diego Godin, probably the best centre-back in world football right now, or at least one of them. And again, he's only 21. This guy is going to mature an awful lot. He's played a lot of games for Uruguay. He's been an absolutely brilliant player at the heart of Atletico Madrid's defence this season, and once again, when we played them in the Champions League, we saw the qualities of him. No, sorry, not in the Champions League. In the league, he was injured for the Champions League games, but we saw the qualities of Jimenez and what he can do. And I think, the 1.5 tackles, he's made a lot of interceptions, he makes a lot of blocks, and I think he's a really, really good player again. 6 foot tall, so again, he's not a giant, but he's very, very physical. He's got a great set of strength about him. He's got a very, very good build. And for me, as a defender, as a pure defender only, he's fantastic. He's brilliant. But in terms of our style of play, in terms of playing the ball out the back, being agile, being quick, I'm not really sure how he'd adapt to that. But certainly if we did go and sign him, Atletico Madrid reportedly would be interested to let him go for less than his release clause to us, but they would make Real Madrid, who apparently are interested also, they'd make Madrid pay his full release clause. So certainly if he's looking to leave this summer, I think Atletico would obviously rather sell to us than Real Madrid, but I'm not sure how that would turn out. But in terms of a defender, he is really top draw. The next player I'm going to talk about is again a young player, and there's a continuing pattern here. A lot of these players are young players, a lot of these players have got time to develop, and a lot of them have big fees. But this again, like Musacchio, is a man who maybe wouldn't command such a massive fee. It's Samuel Umtiti of Lyon in France. Now, he's a player that I know that we've watched on a number of occasions this season. We scouted Lyon on a number of occasions, and this man has been the heart of that. I've given him a 7 out of 10 because I think he's actually a very decent young player, and again, he's got that European experience, but playing in Liga 1, I'm not sure how that would improve your physicality. I'm not sure how that would improve your overall competitiveness. I don't really rate Liga 1 as a good league, if I'm perfectly honest, but at the same time, he does have some good stats there. He's a good player in terms of his athleticism is certainly one of his main strengths. He's only 5'11", so again, for a centre-back, that is not very tall at all. But where he does make up for that is in his strength, in his upper body strength, and also in his pace. He's a fast player, he's a fast centre-back, he's one that likes to read the game, and he's one that could be very, very effective in our system if used in the right way. But he's the sort of player who I would sign in addition to a world-class centre-back. If we're going to go out and sign somebody like Umtiti, somebody who's young, who's maybe not that expensive, we should be signing one of those players and then signing a centre-back of world-class quality. Then you can maybe afford to let Vermaelen go, you can afford to let Mathieu go as well, if you sign two. And that could be an option if we're looking at Umtiti, who does have quality, and the fact that we've gone back to watch him on more than one occasion shows that we do have an interest in him. 27 league appearances for Lyon this season shows that he is one of their main players, but they haven't had the best of season, but they are trying to push PSG at the top of the table. But of course, in Liga 1, there's only one team really, and that does hamper the development of players around the rest of the league. But certainly if we were going to go for a cheaper option, again, he would come to mind. The next player on the list for stats would be John Stones. I want to put this one to bed rather quickly. I'm giving him a 5 out of 10, and that is because a lot of people who do not watch Everton on a regular basis will still believe that this man could well be signing for Barcelona this summer. I can tell you now that he will not be a Barcelona player come the summer. John Stones this season has struggled. He has absolutely struggled from the hype, he's struggled from the pressure, because when you become a big player in England, especially as a young boy, and you go into the national team lineup, there is so much pressure on your shoulders that it's very, very difficult to keep an even head. It's very, very difficult to keep yourself together, and John Stones has struggled. He really has this season. Roberto Martinez has become under a lot of pressure at Everton, and that's rubbed off on Stones, who's given away a number of poor goals, who's made a number of mistakes, and I think he is one player that we should not be looking at this summer. Despite his age, he's got decent stats, we see his potential as a ball-playing centre-back, but at the moment, he's not doing enough defensively. Yes, he may be able to bring the ball out, he may be able to play well, but he's not a good enough defender. He doesn't defend, he doesn't do the basics right at the moment. And there was a period in this season where he couldn't even get an Everton's team. They were dropping him, they were leaving him out. So for that reason, certainly this summer, we should not be anywhere near John Stones, and especially because they're going to be commanding about 40 million. That's what they're going to be demanding. They rejected big offers from Chelsea last summer, and they're going to do the same again this summer. So for me, nowhere near John Stones, because with English players, they always come with a premium. And the last player, believe it or not, in terms of stats, is actually Marquinhos. Now, giving him an 8 out of 10, and I have to say the reasoning for his poor stats is, number one, because he's made a lot of substitute appearances for PSG this season. And also because of what I mentioned earlier about Liga 1, I'm not sure how much Marquinhos would have to defend in that league. I'm not sure how much pressure PSG actually come under in Liga 1. So for that reason, Marquinhos' stats may be down. But for me, I think he's a really good option. He could be expensive. We tried going for him before. He chose to go to PSG instead of joining us. That was a mistake on his part. He's not established himself. Now PSG have got Thiago Silva and David Luiz, and you start to wonder whether there would be a chance to get him. But PSG's owner really does like Marquinhos very, very much on a personal level. So for me, it's going to be difficult to acquire him this summer, and if we do, it's going to be for big, big money. I'm talking 40, 50 million to sign Marquinhos. So he's probably the second or third option on my list. The first option, I would go with, definitely go with Mustafi. I think he's an all-round brilliant player. I think he's affordable, and I think he's certainly negotiable in terms of being able to negotiate with Valencia. I think then you've got to look at Marquinhos and Laporte. They're both young players. They both got a lot of potential. But again, negotiating with both clubs is not easy. And then you're looking at other cheaper options like Musacchio, like Umtiti. Like I said, I would love to go with somebody like Jimenez, although it is a slight risk because of our style. I think he's a brilliant player, but again, it's not going to be easy to take him off Atleti's hands. And finally, then you've got John Stones, who I did mention shouldn't be anywhere near the club come this summer. So leave your thoughts down below. I am very, very excited to hear what you guys have got to say. Who should we be signing? Can you rate these 7 in order of those who you think we should sign this summer, and how much should we be spending on each one? So let me know, guys, your 7 and your order in which you would rank them ahead of this summer. Let me know we should sign down below. It's been great doing this video for you guys. I hope that you did enjoy. If you did, please do leave a like, and I appreciate all your comments on the videos as always. I will see you very, very soon, but until then, as always, Visca el Barça!